Boy, they're just trying to protect their job. This is something that my pops would say to me all the time when I would come to him about a situation where someone was trying to complicate something that I thought was very simple. And most of this time, most of it would happen in business, it would happen in relationships, but most of the time, let me be honest with you, is most of the time it was in business. I would come and I would have a person that would complicate things when they actually could just be simple, and he would always encourage me. Boy, they're just trying to protect their job. Most of my pops' wisdom that I would get, I never realized all of the wisdom inside of the sayings that he would say until later on. Well, later on, what I realized is he was giving me two valuable lessons followed up by a third. The first lesson in that, when he would tell me, boy, they're just trying to protect their job, he always would encourage me to humanize everything. See, when I would humanize things and I would separate a person from their actions, and I would see what that person was going through, and that they were a human being, and that they were dealing with what my pops would say, they're getting hit smack in the face with life. And so it's not just about you in the situation. A lot of times they're dealing with something. And once I humanized it, then I started to, as opposed to demonize that person because the actions they took, I looked at the actions, maybe I didn't agree with them, but the person I could love. And this was a hard thing for me to be able to understand, but I understood it later. So thank you so much, Pops. The second lesson is that when we simplify things, it creates efficiency. And so in Proverbs 24, it encourages us to stick to the path that was designed for us. And in turn, we will keep it very simple. So why don't we get this party started?
Nothing more on my mind. I got two shines, so every day I grind. Work in the morning, work in the evening. We's achieving, cause we believing. It's for certain, we put the work in. We ain't stopped just because it's hurting. Right before your eyes, so it's coming to no surprise. The takeover is televised. Over and over and over again. Make no mistake, we continue to win. Defeat never known, cause I will not lose. They wanna mimic my moves, but can't walk in my shoes.
The next event for the Vibe Room is coming. It's going to be April 12th, and we're actually doing, for the first time, we're going to be doing the Vibe Experience, which is going to be a full day. You're going to get a chance to be able to spend a full day with Coach Keith Hale, Baron Baptiste, unbelievable humans. It's going to be incredible. And then we're going to culminate that night, which is going to be the Vibe Room. We're going to have a couple interviews there, some live music. It's going to be incredible. So be looking out for that April 12th. We'll be releasing the dates very soon. But the message this morning for me, when I got up this morning before men's group, we had our men's group this morning at 7 to 8:30. It actually ran a little bit over. But the message this morning was a very simple one. And I heard my pops' voice. And my pops' voice is so strong in my head. Boy, they're just trying to protect their job. And he would always encourage me that whenever someone would try and complicate something that was actually simple. Because if a person could complicate things, they could seem more important, and when they seem more important, then people they almost were able to protect the thing that they were doing. When you make things simple, a lot of times the fear is, oh man, if I make it that simple, I'll be able to be replaced. But I found it the opposite way. When you can make things simple for people, you become more valuable in their life. And so in this, what my pops would always do is he would help me to realize that there was always a human behind the challenge. And that he would always tell me 99% of challenges in business and in life come down to communication. And so if we know how to communicate at a high level, most of the challenges that we run into, we'll be able to work through. It doesn't mean we won't have challenges. It would just mean that circumstantially, we'll be able to look at it and we'll be able to apply a principle to it. And once that happens, now we start to move through it. It's not like everything's going to be great all the time. It just means that when challenges do arise, are we prepared for that challenge? And so he talked about that always as far as humanizing and looking at the person and loving the person and then dealing with the system. So you create the system and you manage the system, but you love the people. And if you could build people, then people build the business. If you want a relationship to flourish, there's two people in it. And if you build the people in the relationship, then the relationship will flourish. And this is why he would always tell me that 99% of all challenges in business and in life, in relationships, any of those things, it always came down to communication, and communication had three major factors: a sender, a receiver, and results. And if you didn't get results, it wasn't the receiver's fault, it was the sender. So sometimes we're saying the right thing, but we're saying it in the wrong language, or we're saying it at the wrong time. Sometimes we're bringing the blessing, but it's too early in the morning. And, so it's seen as a curse. This is in Proverbs. The second part of it is that simplicity creates efficiency. There's always a way to be able to simplify things. There's always a way to be able to distill it down to the lowest common denominator. And then that way it's so much more easily consumed. And when we can get to that point, we can start cooking with gas. I was just talking with my friend, my friend Gary, and he told me about a book that he's writing, and he's got 7 principles in it, and they're incredible. I can't remember all of them, but I can remember his story. And so as we went down, I said, tell me the story. He said, well, my whole book comes from, all about my fall that I had in, he was rock jumping. I believe it was in Hawaii. I said, take me through the jump. And he said, no, well, and I said, no, the physical part. How were your feet? Show me where his feet were. And then I said, how did you jump? And he said, well, when I had my feet like this and, one in front of the other, my left in front of the right. And then I sprung to jump. And as I did, my right foot slipped. As I slipped, I was supposed to be jumping diagonally, but I went straight. And when I went straight, I knew, like right when I went, I knew that things weren't going well. And his body started to flatten out a little bit as he started to fall. And he said his whole life flashed in front of him. All the most important people, all the love. And he actually apologized on the way down to his mom for, actually killing himself because he made this decision. This is what he's thinking as he's going down. As he gets down to the bottom, his body starts to go and he starts to curl up. He had done judo throughout his life, so his muscle memory told him to just tuck his body into a ball, and as he hit and he rolled, and that saved his life. And so I looked at this scenario, and what I said to Coach Gary is like, Coach, like imagine the principles inside this. Number 1, understand the ground that you're standing on, the foundational ground that you're standing on. Number 2, understand the type of shoes that you have on, and is it the right shoes for that type of foundation or that type of ground? Because there's different types of shoes. Third, you had a destination of where you wanted to go. There was also a situation that could happen that was in front of you in the event that you slipped. And when you slipped, and as you're falling down, all the most important things are the things that are going to save your life. Your muscle memory. And so that muscle memory that we have inside of our life, the thing that you trained on for so long, the judo, that's the thing that stopped you from death, and it had you to have a serious injury, but also you were able to recover from it. And as you recovered from it, you wanted to be able to tell the story, and that was blessing other people. And to be able to bless other people, pour light into them, you have to pour light into yourself. And where can you get that? That's look into your Creator. And so as I talked about that to him, we were chatting about it. That took me a couple of minutes to be able to tell you the story. But you can imagine standing on that cliff. Every one of us is standing on a cliff at some point in our life. Have we checked the terrain? Have we checked the ground beneath our feet? Have we checked the type of shoes that we have so we have the right footing? Have we chose where we ultimately want to go, but also assessed the place in the event that we slip that we could go? Have we worked on our muscle memory so much that in the event that the worst possible scenario happened, that we would only get injured and we wouldn't die? And when we do get injured, do we have the mental fortitude and the strength to be able to push through and recover from that? And when that happens, are we willing to then go tell the story and shine the light on everybody else so they don't have to go through the same thing that you did? But to be able to do that, you got to fill yourself up. So as I distilled the story for him, I was looking at it, and the simplification of it is, for me, is where everything lives. When we simplify something, we can simplify it down. We could take that and make it as efficient as humanly possible. And how can you do that in your message throughout the day? Well, every time that I would get frustrated when my pops would say, boy, it's just them trying to protect their job, what I realized is that I had to humanize something. I had to simplify it, and that would create efficiency. In Proverbs 24, it encourages us to distill it down, to humanize every single thing, and that will help us to be able to give grace to ourselves and to be able to simplify it because it's not that complicated. And what he's telling us is that it's not that complicated. Just come and hang out with me. But coming and hanging out with me on Monday is not going to save you on Friday. I want you to hang out with me every single day. I want you to pour into me every single day and have that relationship. So here's the rundown from Proverbs 24. And Merry Christmas Eve to you. Also, happy birthday to Stephanie Kachelski. I want to thank every one of you guys for tuning in to the podcast. It is an absolute honor to be here with you. If you're not with us on Substack, you'll actually get the handwritten notes. We release that on Fridays. I'd love for you guys to be there with us, and we just want to tell you how much we appreciate you. So in verse 1 and 2, the company that you keep will determine your experience. Right. And God, as I was looking at this, Solomon wrote it, and it was just the simplification. The humanization of it, of the company that you keep, will determine the experience that you have in life. And the company that you keep, it doesn't mean that, some people take this out of context and they're like, oh, I just need to be with millionaires or decamillionaires, or I need to be with people who are just achieving. No, be around great people. Make sure that you're around people who have phenomenal hearts, but also if they're doing things that aren't the greatest, humanize the situation and realize that you could separate them from the things that they're doing and love on them as a person, but maybe not agree with what it is that they're doing. In verse 3 and 4, talked about wisdom, understanding, and knowledge bring unparalleled returns. So what is wisdom? It's the right use of knowledge. What is understanding? That understanding, like if we don't have the right use of knowledge, there's no reason to have knowledge in our life, right? And understanding comes from once you start to do things over and over again, you gain the knowledge of it, you start to understand what it is. It's just a progression. And when the three of those are evident, right, and when they're there in your life with wisdom, understanding, and knowledge, they bring unparalleled returns. Well, wisdom, right use of knowledge, wisdom comes from the fear of God. Once we get the right use of knowledge, which is wisdom from the fear of God or the respect of God, then we can bring in any knowledge that we want. And we need to have knowledge in business. I was just sitting with my friend David Hamilton yesterday, and he blew my mind with some of the ideas that he talks about because he has knowledge. He's sold to a venture capital company with his for a multiple in his company. So he has the knowledge of it. And as he started to explain it to me, I started to gain understanding in it. It's incredible what can happen. In verse 5 and 6, it's a layered one. And victory in battle requires wisdom, knowledge, and guidance. And it goes back to this side that if you go into battle, and that could be a battle in a relationship, it could be a battle in business, it could be a battle in your life, wherever it is, you need to make sure that victory in a battle requires, it's not just a nice to do, it requires wisdom, which is the right use of knowledge. It requires knowledge, and it requires guidance, people who have been through it. I just had a guy, Mike, in our men's group this morning, and he came in, and he has immense wisdom. We were talking about three of us have 13 and 14-year-old sons in the group, and he's got sons that are in their 20s, early 30s. And he gave us encouragement and wisdom because he had been through the experience already. And so the question here was, what battle are you in, coming out of, or going into? And if you're in one of those scenarios, which we all are, we're either in a battle right now, we're coming out of one, or we're about to go into one. So make sure that you have wisdom, knowledge, and guidance in your pocket. In verse 7, it just talked about that wisdom separates. And wisdom always separates because wisdom is too high for fools. Silly people, like wisdom separates. So it's not that you have to separate yourself, but when you seek out wisdom, which is the right use of knowledge, it'll separate on its own. In verse 8 and 9, don't be silly. This was a very simple, and I just hear my mom's voice in this, and especially around the holiday season, like I hear my mom's voice and my pop's voice all the time. And I want to tell you both, I absolutely love you. Thank you so much, Mom and Dad, for all the principles that you gave me and not the circumstantial things. I wanted the circumstantial. I wanted you to fix this situation. But what my parents always did is they said, I don't know, but I know someone who does. And they would direct my eyes to the Lord. And when they directed my eyes to the Lord, they helped me to understand, God helped me to understand that it was always going to be principle based. And when we look to the principle, it simplifies things. And so in verse 10, strength is only strength when it's tested. Think of that one. In verse 11 and 12, when it is in your power, do right. And it's always in your power to do right. In verse 13 and 14, keep your head down and your eyes up and work your land. Keep your head down, work your land. Keep your eyes up, understanding all the opportunities that are around you, understanding all the incredible things that are happening around you. Don't stick your head in the sand. Keep your head down, but keep your eyes up. And then just work your land. I want to encourage every single one of you, where you're standing underneath your feet is an acre of diamonds right now. And I want to encourage you in that. In verse 15 through 18 and 28 and 29, keep it positive and give well wishes. God is at work. And this is probably one of the hardest things, especially when you see somebody do you wrong, or you see something that wasn't right, and you would like to state your case. God is constantly saying, I'm at work. Don't worry about it. I got it. I'll repay it. I'll do it. I got it taken care of. But if you step in, that's when challenges happen. So when you have something that maybe somebody's wronged you, something wrong has happened, I want to encourage every one of you, let God work. Just give him well wishes. Give him a peace sign, give him a high five, or just don't say anything at all. Just keep a smile on your face and keep it positive as possible. In verse 19 and 20, everything has a season. Everything has a season. In verse 21 and 22, patience is good. That was a very simple one. When I read that, I was thinking, man, that's so elementary, but it's simple. Verse 24 and 26, do the right thing even when it hurts. Verse 27, understand your purpose, work your gifts, and build your life around them. This is a thing that I've struggled with over time because I have the tendency to chase shiny things, and my pops would say it's chasing rabbits. But what I would encourage you to do is this, and it walks you down in verse 27, probably one of my favorite verses in all of Proverbs 24. Understand your purpose, work your gifts, and build your life around them. I watch all the people that are doing, have sustainable, what you could refer to as success in their life, whether it be in their marriage or in their business or in their relationships, and every one of them understands their purpose, they work their gifts, and they build their life around their gifts and not around other people's gifts. And as we finish up is verse 30 through 34 is maintenance is required. This is what God was saying, right? So as I was looking through, I was like, God, hold on. There's a lot of things. That wasn't that simple. But what he was saying is I want you to understand the principles of it. I want you to understand these things. These are going to be the circumstances that happen. The company that you keep, wisdom and understanding and knowledge will bring unparalleled results. Victory in a battle requires wisdom, knowledge, and guidance. Wisdom separates. Don't be silly. Strength is only strength when it is tested. When it comes, or when it's in your power, do right. Keep your head down, your eyes up, work your land. Keep it positive and give well wishes. God is at work. Everything has a season. Patience is good. Do the right thing even when it hurts. Understand your purpose. Work your gifts. Build your life around them. And maintenance is required. See, these are going to be some circumstantial things that go through, but in the end, when he said maintenance is required, he wants you to keep it simple. And he was just saying, if you just come to me, if you come to me, all these things will be taken care of. But if you try and take care of all these things, most likely you won't come to me. So as I look back at what my pops would say all the time, boy, they're just trying to protect their job. He was humanizing things. He was simplifying things, but he was solving the one challenge that we talked about. 99% of challenges in business and in life come down to communication. And when you look back at it in your business or in your relationship, it's not about the circumstance that happened most of the time. It just has to do with the way in which it was communicated. And somebody got offended and then somebody got defensive. Or it was just communicated wrong. The thing maybe had good intentions, but the words weren't in the right order. So imagine if you humanize things, there'll be tons of grace for the person. You'll separate the person from the actions. And then when you simplify things, it'll create efficiency. And when you have a humanization of it and you have tons of grace and you have simplification of it, what'll start to happen is you'll be able to communicate at a level that you never, ever understood, but other people will. And when you communicate to people in a language that they understand, then you start moving forward. Humanize it. Simplify it, and then communicate it. It's amazing what Proverbs 24 can do. And I've had people ask me, why is Proverbs so important? For me, it's been a 30-year study. And what I've looked at is how can it apply in every single aspect of my life? How can I work principle-based things? And when it's principle, you distill it down, which means that you simplify it. But then how can I humanize it? How can I make it a story where somebody will be able to accept it? And when that happens, then I can communicate at a high level, which communicating at a high level is just simple communication in a language that other people understand, so it becomes a part of their story. I want to thank you guys all. This has been another episode of Inchstones. Subscribe to the Substack, subscribe on YouTube, follow us on Spotify, do all the things that you know you need to do. And do me a favor, have a phenomenal holiday season. Love on somebody, write them a letter, write them a handwritten letter about some specific things that they do that you absolutely love and that inspire you. And then hit me in the comments and tell me the impact of that. The Substack is the handwritten notes. You guys can tune into that. I love you guys so much. It's been another episode. My name is Kelly Cardenas, and I'm officially off the hot seat. Peace, love, and soul.
Nothing more on my mind. I got to shine, so every day I grind. Work in the morning, work in the evening. We's achieving, cause we believing. It's for certain, we put the work in. We ain't stopped just because it's hurting. Right before your eyes, so it's coming to no surprise. The takeover is televised. Over and over and over again.